For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late night conservative talk, Hackheads Radio. The best late night conservative talk show in America. In America. In America.
In America.
And in this web world, large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
In the world.
Keep trying. Keep trying, princess.
In the world.
Hey, welcome to the Sackheads Radio Show.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, you're welcome live on the SHR Media Network. It is the 2nd of September.
It is?
Uh-huh. 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 Coming to you live from the SHR Media Studios in beautiful downtown town, I'm not going to mention, in the lovely state of California.
Hi.
I'm your host, Sackhead Sean. Sitting off to my right is...
Sackhead Clint,
Yeah,
and I'm
so-
live via the telephone.
You are not this time.
I am.
Stop telling people that.
No.
No, you set them up because here's what happens. Every time one of us does a phone interview, everyone says, hey, you had a great show. However, it's always a little weird when you guys are on the phone. Like, you can hear there's a little bit of a disconnect. Like, the mojo
But we're working that out, and that's why I'm on the phone tonight.
isn't there. But then you set a standard like this.
Uh-huh. Like what?
Were you telling people you're in the studio when you're not in the studio?
Exactly.
And...
Right, that's what you just did.
Fine. You talk.
Duck season.
Rabbit season. Duck season. Fire! Have a hell of a lot to talk about this week. The
No, we don't.
board of topics is just chocked full of stuff.
Well, it's not chalk. It's dry erase.
Is dry erased full of stuff?
Thank you. Dry erase markered full.
You, for the good folks at home that don't get to see this, every week when we're getting ready, Clint does the topics and gets them all set up and ready to go. And he sets them up on the board. And we've been doing this now for, what, 4 years? At least?
No less than one.
And every single, since we started doing the board not too long ago, every single time we do the board, you set it up and then show it to me.
Right.
Like it was a child. Like you've just fathered a child.
Right.
And
we have to know what we're going to be talking about.
And it's not that there's anything wrong with it.
Right.
But the joy on your face
Yeah.
as it happens is amazing to me.
Right, because I'm proud of the work I do during the week. And so when it culminates into the final product, which is the big board of topics, which, by the way, sounds like a Price is Right game. It's big board of topics. It's something I'm very proud of because it's 7 days worth of work. Culminating into the big board of topics because a lot of things come up. And there are certain things that we've kind of focused in on this show, and we've kind of developed a theme over the last month or so of some things, or actually a few months that we've been kind of following and talking about. So yeah, for me, it's something I'm very proud of. And we talk during the week about ideas and topics and so forth. But when all that research, I mean, I'm not the social media guy or the tech guy. I'm the topic guy. And so when all of this week's worth of stuff comes to a head, to fruition, where I can put everything down on the big board of topics, I want somebody there to share my joy. And since this is like a marriage, you should be happy to share that with me. And maybe we need to go to counseling if you're not at that place anymore.
I don't want you to do the dishes. I want you to want to do the dishes.
Right. I want you to celebrate my accomplishments with me. This is a journey together that we are on. Look, so okay, and to dime myself out even further, I came into the studio and I fired up the computers. because I know how to do that now from the other week when nobody was here and I was the lone soldier. And so I sent a text message out.
One time.
I was so proud.
time.
Hang on. I was so proud of firing up everything. And I saved this text string because this is something that I believe should go into the Sackett archives. It's something obviously
Oh, no, I'll do it.
we have to.
Can I read it, please?
Yes.
Because as I'm trying to rush and get here,
Russian. Funny you mentioned that.
I'm not Russian, I'm Putin. As I'm trying to get here and I'm running late, which normally I'm not. Normally I'm ready to go very, very early.
Right.
Today it was just one of those days.
Right.
7 minutes past 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time.
Uh-huh.
Hey, just so you know, I had texted Clint. I'm running a minute late.
No.
Well, that was at 7:05. 7:07 I get K, as in okay.
Hang on. Got hemmed up, leaving now.
Right.
Okay. So let's be accurate in our reporting.
Okay.
Okay.
To which you respond K. 10 minutes later, ETA, question mark. 7:17 that was at. 7:17 again, I'm here, bro. 7:17 again, computers are on. 7:17 again, I did that. 7:17 again, no big. I finally respond 10, as in 10 minutes, to the ETA question. LOL. This is all in the minute of 7. So these are text messages. Clint responds to his own comment of, it's no big at 7:17. It kind of is. So when you people think I am insane...
Now, hang on a second. What do you mean, you people? Why do you have to talk to Ken specifically?
No,
I think Ken
it's
was
not
able to
Ken
follow that.
specifically.
Well,
Listen, you have a couple cocktails every once in a while, you're doing all right. You choose not to have a cocktail, I feel bad for you.
right.
But there are some people who can't have cocktails. Either way, as long as it's not an extreme anything...
But here's the problem.
What?
Everybody's definition of extreme is different. Your definition of extreme is 37 beers, and we've talked about this.
No, that's moderate. Go ahead.
Right, that's moderation bordering on extreme. And again, this is something that we've discussed in depth. Other people's is, well, that's a little excessive.
To which I respond, excessive.
Sissy. And you sound like Joe Biden when you do that.
Exactly. Which is why I want to drink with him so bad.
Right.
That's all friggin' malarkey. You got it, Joe. Have another wine spritzer. That's a gallon of wine, Joe. Whatever. I spritzed it.
That's gross, Joe. Pull your pants back up.
That's not a spritz as much as a drag there, Joe.
That's a dribble.
That's a dribble. But why does this stuff make news? That's the part that bothers me the most.
I don't know.
Say hi to Mary. She said hi to you in the chat room.
Hi, Mary.
I miss
Sean
Mary.
Sean doesn't allow me in the chat room anymore.
I do allow you into the chat
You
room.
don't. You don't fire up my chat computer.
No. I don't hold your hand to the chat room anymore.
No, you don't fire
Because
up my
after
chat
4 years,
computer.
you should friggin' know how to do it.
No, well, hang on. To be fair, my chat computer is from circa 1973. I think it's a Commodore 64.
62.
62. Thank you. And so to fire it up, I would literally have to be here at 11:30 a.m. for an 8 o'clock start.
Well, the biggest problem we have is getting the tapes to feed. The big reel-to-reel tapes.
Right.
Yeah, getting those to feed one to the other is pretty
Right.
difficult.
And it's difficult maintaining because this one operates on dial-up only. So maybe.
No, it doesn't matter the fact that we have ridiculously fast internet in the studio. This one actually only works on dial-up.
Right, and that's an improvement. That's after Sacco upgraded it because it used to be through teletype only. Yeah.
The funniest part about it is we actually have a phone line dedicated, and we are the only AOL dial-up membership left in the world.
I think that's accurate. We'd have to verify that because it may be us and Putin, or us and some third world country.
Mary wants to know if we still do Morse code. I said, obviously, we moved past that last year. We had to.
Nobody else spoke that language.
It's really hard to do it on the show when you're trying to have a conversation.
Yeah, because there would be times, and I don't know if those of you who've been with us for a while remember, where Sean and I would just look at each other, and all of a sudden I'd say, and Sean would respond. And very few
Listen to
people
the early records.
knew what we were talking about. Yeah, that's back when we were on vinyl.
When we were on vinyl. That's how you used to get our weekly show. You wait for the vinyl to get stamped.
Yeah, we had subscribers, and so we'd mail out the vinyl. So most people would be like a week or two behind.
Ken's saying that Hillary actually had dial-up in her Bath server room. Well, so we're the second one. But if it's good enough for Hill Dog, it's good enough for us.
Right.
By the way, my new nickname for her.
Hill Dog?
Hill Dog.
Not Hillabeans?
No. Hill Dog.
Not Hildebrand?
Hildebrand.
What was the name of the witch from Bugs Bunny?
Broomhilda.
Right?
It was Broomhilda.
Hillary Clinton.
Broom Hillary.
Broom Hillary.
Yeah, Hillary.
Right.
Can you imagine?
I made a funny.
Somebody was talking about, completely angry about Hillary, was talking about the fact that idiots are still going to vote for her if it gets to that point. And the fact that, there's still a slim possibility she could still, unless something dramatic happens, which it could, she could actually still get elected.
She could, and we're going to get it. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
No, I don't want to jump that. But
right. You don't want to jump. I would hope not, because that's gross. If you wanted to jump that.
All he said to me is, all I could see right now is our military marching by the White House, goose-stepping in pantsuits. And the image has stuck with me nonstop.
Who said that?
A friend of mine.
Goose-stepping in pantsuits. Or just wearing pantsuits in basic training.
Everybody's in pantsuits and 2-inch heels.
These boots are not regulation.
Oh, that's sexist.
I think it's sexy, personally.
Whatever. I know you're into that sort of thing.
What, pantsuits?
Yes.
How the Red Sox doing?
Hey, actually, and I said this last week, as horrible as it sounds after John Farrell announced he had cancer, they've actually been playing really well.
Good.
Not great. They could have swept the Mets this past weekend and didn't, but overall they did pretty good. I do have to admit, I had a pretty cool day Saturday.
Okay.
And, I know we're running a minute behind now, but I was on the USS Hornet. Mm-hmm. I was on the USS Pampanito, which is a submarine docked in San Francisco.
Uh-huh.
And the Jeremiah O'Brien, which was a merchant marine ship, one of the esteemed ships that still goes out and sails once a year, which is really cool, from World War II. All in one day. All in a span of 8 hours. And the amount of history that was on that, it really was breathtaking. And if you ever have the opportunity to do something like that, I highly recommend it, because the Hornet's amazing. You've been on the Hornet.
I have. We've talked about going there together.
Yeah.
with the kids.
And it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. And just so if you have an opportunity, if there's something like that near your home, bring the friends, bring the family, and go learn the history of it.
Yeah, and look, you can find them. I wouldn't recommend necessarily traveling to San Francisco just to go see those, because there are ships elsewhere, so why give that liberal city any kind of money? But that's just me.
You wouldn't believe what it cost me to park.
Look, I have a story.
I know.
And the lead is, and you don't know what the story is.
I don't know what the story is.
Which is,
because this is going to be a new segment, I think, on the show, where you surprise me with the segment.
And this was born, for those of you that were listening, was it last week or the week before? I think it was last week, where you said, I wish you wouldn't have told me that.
Well, when we were eating it, yeah.
Right. I wish you wouldn't have told me that. I would have seen, you could have seen my reaction ahead of time. So the title of this segment is "The City of New Orleans Unconstitutional Practice?" ? It was originally "The City of New Orleans Sucks."
Go on.
But I had to change it. So the City of New Orleans operates a traffic enforcement camera for speed.
Uh-huh.
And it takes a photograph of the vehicle, the license plate and the vehicle, not the driver. It then issues a citation to the registered owner, or in the case of a rental car, to the person who rented the vehicle, not to the driver, but to either the registered owner or the person who was responsible for the vehicle via rental or whatnot, and then issues a fine.
Wait, what?
Yes. So
it's
this
not the person that
came to me from a Sackheads fan, and I actually have a copy of said citation and bail schedule and so forth here with me. And I would like to read the top part and then have a discussion. And the look on your face, I wish you could articulate that. Correct?
Okay, yes.
So
I will stipulate.
So they then issue a citation to the registered owner, or in this case, the person who was responsible for renting the vehicle, not to the driver itself. And you have some options. You can pay the violation and the amount of the fine, submit an affidavit if the vehicle was stolen, request a hearing in person, or request a hearing by mail. Now, if you request a hearing and the hearing officer concludes that no infraction has been committed, yeah, right, notice will be dismissed. However, if the hearing officer concludes an infraction has been committed, you're responsible for the payment of the penalty and administrative fee in addition to additional enforcement costs imposed by the city of New Orleans. So if you exercise, first of all, I think this is unconstitutional, because how do you issue a citation, even if it's only civil? How do you take action
Without a body?
Yes, against a vehicle and hold the registered owner or person who rented the vehicle responsible when that person may or may not have been the driver? The burden of proof is on the state, or in this case the city of New Orleans, to prove that a specific person that you are trying to hold liable for a violation committed said violation. Unless you're just enforcing something the vehicle did. But the vehicle's an inanimate object.
Right, well,
so how can the vehicle violate anything? And so now you're holding a person responsible for the actions of a machine? So is the city of New Orleans admitting that Transformers do in fact exist? Or is the program unconstitutional because it's trying to hold, right, because it's holding somebody responsible without proof? And so I think there's certainly constitutional violations here, due process and whatnot, but additionally, you're going to impose additional penalties if somebody exercises their constitutional rights to a hearing.
Well,
so I think there's two things here.
Caveats with this.
Two caveats to this.
May I see, please?
Yes, you may. Now, this is on condition of anonymity.
Yes, absolutely. I absolutely will not talk about Frank's. I mean, sorry.
Nice.
First couple interesting things here. If you are going to impose, and listen, we believe in states' rights, and I understand city ordinances and all that other stuff. I
Right.
understand that some cities will say you cannot do this in our city, even though
Right.
the state can do that.
Right.
However, usually
This is a whole due process thing, though.
yes, and usually it is greater than the offense of the state. So,
Right.
in other words, if something is, let's say Louisiana, for example, speeding, you may not be fined more than $175, and there's a step process. Obviously, it goes. I think it's 85, as I researched really quickly for the initial, and then 5 for 5 over that. This is actually looks like it would be on target with the state law, at least from my quick math. So, why are you doing this? Other than, and could they hit you for a city violation and a state violation? because it's two separate things now, right?
Right.
It's not double jeopardy. You're not being charged with the same crime.
Right.
You're being charged with two separate offenses. So that's my first question that comes into mind. Second of all, they're using the gun argument that the left makes all the time, right? The left is the gun's the problem. The gun's the one that's shooting people. The gun's the one that blah 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 blah, and they're applying it to a vehicle.
Right.
When that vehicle is obviously operated by a person. Now, it's also a very, very large assumption that the person who the vehicle is registered and or rented to is in fact the person who's operating at time of the offense. And you're holding them accountable for the actions of another without any proof whatsoever. Picture it as a battery, right? Or any other crime where you run up, you punch somebody and run away. And you run into this house, and the first person that answers the door gets arrested for that battery.
Right.
This is very much like that, right? There's no body. When a warrant is issued for a person, it is issued for that person. Property warrants are much different. In this case, the person is being held accountable for the action. So therefore, to not have a person or a picture of a person, listen, I hate speed and I hate red light cameras. I think they're the worst thing on the face of the planet.
Right.
I think it's a city and a state's way to get rich quick versus having somebody out there actually enforcing the law. However, that being said, I understand as much as I dislike, and we can have the constitutional argument about red light cameras in general, almost every single one I've ever seen takes a photograph of the driver.
Right.
Because that is the person committing the offense.
Correct.
And if you get it in the mail with the picture and you go, this isn't me, but I can tell you who it is,
Right.
then you are no longer held accountable.
Or this isn't me, but if it's a spouse, I can't be compelled to testify against my spouse. This isn't me.
There's so many
period.
different lanes you can go down at that point.
I see what you did there. Traffic citations, lanes. Yeah,
right.
nice work.
I do what I can to bring it around. However, in this particular situation, you can walk in and say, I was not the driver, and they're going to say, prove it. Well, my spouse, and you can't compel me, as you just said. Or it was my friend Larry. My friend Larry, what I don't know when I loaned him my car,
Right.
has a suspended license. I asked Larry, is your license good? He showed me a copy of it. Yeah, my license is fine. Okay, great. As the owner of that vehicle, I was responsible to make sure I issued it to another licensed driver. That is my right. Now, if he deceives me, that is not my problem. But I get this little ticket in the mail, this cute little piece of paper here where they're trying to look all official, even though it's unconstitutional.
Right.
And they say, oh, you're responsible. And I say, no, I didn't have it that day. It was my buddy Larry. And they go to my buddy Larry, and he goes, yeah, it wasn't me. Now, I have a problem with my buddy Larry. We could talk about that later. However, they're going to come back to me, and they say, well, he said he wasn't driving, and you're the owner. So now I am out the sum of, in this case, $110 plus administrative fees.
Right.
Even though I could have been in my house asleep at the time of this.
Right.
So part of our due process.
Now, I do want to say something. Back in 2012, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, a 3-judge panel, upheld the traffic system, basically saying, the needs of a city to deter traffic collisions kind of overrides the minimum inconvenience for a relatively minor fine of $380 to $455 if the payment is overdue, basically trying to balance the private and governmental interests concerned.
Yes.
No, individual rights and constitutional rights, those aren't balanced with governmental interests. Your rights are your rights, and it's not for the government to take away or to balance the interest of, right? Those are, if you have a right to due process, then that's the right to due process. Now, the interesting thing in the judge's opinions, they did say that they expressed no opinion on other possible due process objections to the camera system that were not raised in the case that they heard back in 2012, or that they ruled on in 2012. For example, the ordinance's distribution of burdens of proof and the potential liability for allowing another person to drive one's vehicle, which are questions that we raised
separate on a roadway that they now regulate and permit a second body to prosecute and/or
I don't know
issue-
that.
But right, that you now get into that.
Well,
very
the city police could issue a citation on that roadway. So if the city says, "Hey, we're going to have a civil fine if that vehicle is speeding through here," but again, my issue is that you're tagging a vehicle, right? And now unless it's Bumblebee. Right. And Optimus Prime just happens to be driving. Then maybe you hold the vehicle accountable. Good luck collecting, right?
It'd be great if you did have a license.
Mr. Prime.
Can you just can you picture a courtroom in Louisiana? Now, Yana, I'm just a small town country boy. But if you look at the flames on this robot's chest, it shows you he is about speed. I rest my case.
We're up against a break.
Doing 32 miles an hour.
We're up against a break.
I appreciate you ruining my day with that. Thank you
welcome.
so much. And you know, if it wasn't for you, I'll tell you, I'd have an optimistic look at life.
We may have to name it like Sean's surprise segment or something.
Sean. Yay! My heart condition, that's always a good idea.
You do need to work on articulating your reaction because your jaw dropped open and your eyes got
do a
big.
30-second video from now on.
And you turned red,
No,
which was perfect, but nobody else could see
I'm
that.
just going to do a 30-second video from now on. When we're ready for the segment, you're going to prep me, and I'm going to turn around, I'm going to turn the camera on, and you're going to say it.
Okay.
And then that 30-second video every single week will be uploaded.
Okay.
That's what we're going to do from now on. We're up against a break. When we come back,
Cold War II, the Arctic Circle.
bum, 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 right here on the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean,
Dude, I'm not saying cow for the stupid pro.
Sackhead Clint,
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific from me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Who listens to the Andrea Kaye Show? Let's find out as we eavesdrop on listener Roger Johnson in Encinitas.
You know, if our policy is going to be bring any child who comes across the border, we have to take them in.
Okay, so apparently Roger fell asleep in the middle of my brilliant political tirade, and now he plans to sue me because I put him on the air, sleeping. Obviously, he's a liberal.
Snoring, not an option while listening to the Andrea Kaye Show, Tuesday mornings at 11 on Financial News and Talk.
You know I'm right. Y'all know I'm right.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
And welcome to the Sackheads Radio Show
Thank
live.
I still get confused by that.
Whether or not I'm talking to you or not?
Right, yeah, it's always so confusing, especially since I'm on the phone, so I can't see you really
at all. Even though you saw my face through that entire last segment.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This one you have, yeah, that's what I thought. Hey.
What?
We have the windows open because it's not as hot as it used to be. The wind's blowing in.
Right.
Matter of fact, it's getting a little cold. War.
I see what you did there.
Such a horrible segue.
That was horrible. That was ridiculous, actually. You need to try over. Go.
So, Russia's being assholes again.
Right. So, the Cold War II. The Arctic Circle is... Russia and China have a lot of activity up there.
Right.
And as we talked about previously, energy is huge. The energy potential in the Arctic Circle is huge. And Russia's...
A submarine and a flag at the bottom of the ocean is a big deal, too.
Right. Russia is making a big push. China is making a big push for the area there. And it looks like Russia is looking to establish almost like a Suez Canal through the region that they're able to control, which is potentially a very big deal. In the Arctic North, there's some melting going on, which could open up some new shipping routes.
Yes.
And this is what tells me that it's serious. President Obama yesterday says that he actually wants to speed up the acquisition of new icebreakers and give to the U.S. Coast Guard in order to help navigate the area.
Wow. Wait, who said that?
The President of the United States, President Barack
Did we get a new one recently?
Obama.
Like one that has stones?
No, I don't know. But first of all,
should we be looking for a pod somewhere in the White House?
Who is this guy? First of all, we're talking about energy, and what it would take to get that energy out would probably involve some form of drilling, I would imagine, which he's not a big fan of.
Yeah, but you know what? But it's one of those things of, if they can't have it, we don't need it.
Huh?
So, even if we say lay claim to the area, hey, this is ours, we're setting it up when we get around to it, but this is ours. And even if they do some early work and try to...
Oh, so he's going to establish this as ours to protect it, because we're not going to take the energy out, and you can't either because it would harm the environment?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's almost like a kid with a couple cookies.
I'll go that route, and I like where your head's at, because then we're not giving those icebreakers to the Navy.
No, we're giving them to
We're going to give them to the Coast Guard Department of Transportation.
We have to guard the coasts.
We have to guard
shipping lanes.
Right.
Environmental.
Right. So last March, if you guys recall, Putin ordered a military exercise in the Arctic North in Russia. The 40,000 Russian troops took place, warships, submarines, and everything else. And now Obama seems to be taking notice and says, you know what? Russia's reestablishing Soviet-era military bases again. They're again starting to build search and rescue stations along the shores in its Arctic regions. Right. However, Russia's economic minister said, for us, the Arctic is mineral resources, transportation, and one also should not forget about fish and sea products and bioresources.
Biofuels. Yeah.
Another biological resources. So this is potentially a very big deal. And so now the fact that the president seems to take notice of this, and this could be problematic.
Which is amazing, because he doesn't take notice of much.
He really doesn't. So right now the U.S. only has 2 icebreakers that work. Russia has 41, and they plan on adding 11 more to their fleet. That would be 52. against our 2. Carry the 1. That's 50 more icebreakers. What? That's 50 more icebreakers than we have. The commandant of the Coast Guard says, "Yeah, we're already behind." Oh, no kidding.
By 50.
Even I can math, right? And even with Russia's 41 and our 2,
I can has math.
I can math, and that 41 is greater than 2.
Right.
Bigger than. I'm sorry, I don't know how those symbols
Larger.
are. The little alligator mouth that eats the number. That's all I remember.
The sidewards V versus the other sidewards V.
Right.
It's a V on its side. Who the freak thought of that?
Right. This one eats this number. So what? It doesn't eat anything. Now, why is it called a carrot if it's eating anything?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I can't believe out all the crap you said tonight. That's the one that got me.
I know. Look, so we're scaling back our military, right? Obama wants to scale back our military, and we need to build icebreakers. Now, in a completely unrelated story, 5 Chinese warships were seen in the Bering Sea off of Alaska.
Well, they're fishing.
No, they weren't fishing. They were in international waters, but they were right there in the Bering Sea. You know that area of sea between Russia and Alaska?
No.
Yeah, no, I'm not asking you. That was the name of the state, Alaska.
Well, first of all,
and this happens to coincide with Obama-Nama's visit to Alaska. Obama-Nama. We should have Sako do a song.
Obama-Nama. Obama-Nama.
Okay, stop.
Obama-Nama.
Okay, stop.
So now you have China. Hey, finally, race to the top actually means something in this country, right?
Right.
Everyone's racing to the top of the friggin' world to try to hold it. And listen, the last Cold War was won through energy.
Through our energy policy.
Through our energy policy.
Hang on, in a completely unrelated story, Russia and China had the largest joint naval exercises yet in the Sea of Japan.
Well, I mean, listen.
It was a joint naval exercise in the Sea of Japan, the largest one ever. 20 aircraft, 500 Marines, 22 warships, Russian guided missile cruisers.
But it was fine. Listen.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Throw all your theories about the Axis and the Allies out the window, right? You don't have these...
that was a great game, by the way.
Awesome game.
We need to play someday.
You don't have these rogue countries creating coalitions and helping each other out. I mean, it's not like Russia's offering and China are offering to help Iran with their nuclear program or selling them defense weapons. It's not like...
Yeah, they are.
All right, but listen, that's one example. It's not like China and Russia regularly exchange...
yeah, they do.
All right, fine. But seriously, North Korea doesn't buy anything...
Yeah, it does. Seriously, it's not like they're going to build... Russia's going to build a joint pipeline to supply China with fuel and energy.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are.
They are. Okay. All right, fine.
I'm lost. What happened to the good old days when Russia was preparing to fight China militarily?
I know, right? The enemy is my friend.
But now, all of a sudden, the last 10 years, and now it seems to be ramping up. And this is why their joint ventures in the
money.
But this is why now their joint ventures in the Arctic Circle concern me. And you know, these are 3 different news stories from different sources that we were able to kind of get and put those together, because I don't think you can look at them one at a time. I think the optics are clear. You have to look at them together to really paint the full picture, right? Mm-hmm. So now we have the Cold War kind of heating up. See what I did there? in the Arctic, where Russia and China are both going after the energy there. You have Chinese warships, 5 of them, operating in the Bering Sea, while our president is in Alaska giving an address, and in an area, granted it is the international waters, but in an area that's really bound by, between Russia and U.S. Alaska. And you have the Russian and Chinese naval forces in a large exercise in the Mediterranean. And you put all of that together, and it's a little disturbing, to say the least.
You know, the strangest bedfellows is Russia and China, but they have what the other one kind of needs, right? They may not have all their high-tech military equipment going as we speak, but they have the designs for them, right? They can still make really good designs. I mean,
they're putting out 11 new icebreakers. What else are they cranking out, right?
Let's look at their jets right now, right? The Su-35 was just at an air show this weekend doing unbelievable things aerobatically. And that's a Gen 4 fighter. Their Gen 5 fighter, the Pac something, I forget what it is, the Pac 20 or
Pac Sun, Pac 10. Isn't that a
Pac 10?
That's a football thing. Yeah, never mind.
Either way,
whatever.
The PAK it is getting some pretty good reviews outside of Russia. You know, so they have been trying to advance and push forward, and now you have somebody that can fund and finance. Hey, we give you this information, you give us money. Hey, you help us get settled in the Arctic Circle. We give you energy that China greatly needs in exchange for money and access to it.
What if China tells Russia, hey, we'll sell you U.S. debt?
Oh.
Why is nobody talking about this? What if China says to Russia, hey, so we understand that there's a good chance we're not going to get, almost like a collection agency, right? Hey,
the collection in Russia.
We will sell you the U.S. debt 75 cents on the dollar.
Hello, Mr. Obama. My name is Vladimir, and I'd like to speak to you about this outstanding account you have with us. I would like to make an offer right now for you to settle on this $15 billion of debt that we have purchased from an other holder. We will offer $14 billion right now. No, I won't say it. No, okay. $14 billion, and you have to do a kissy face photo. Yeah, like, seriously.
Or you disavow all claims in the Arctic region.
Right. Well, and listen, we've been talking about for a long time what this debt does for leverage on our country. And the fact that China, that we never, ever, ever, and I will say this time and again, we never should have normalized, quote, trade and finance with China while they were still a communist nation. Because listen, we can talk about how friendly China is about some things,
right?
And people,
why would you do this to us? We gave you the flying tigers,
right? It's not the same China.
Nope.
And this China is.
I mean, well, the land is.
Well, I mean, right? They didn't move it. It's not like it's in
right.
South America.
It's not a South American China.
It's not the same Chinese government,
right?
And just because they are now a capitalist communist finance does not mean that
capitalist
the communitalist.
Commie bastard.
It doesn't matter. Either way, commie bastard. I like that one.
Thank you.
It doesn't change the agenda of a communist, and it doesn't. And listen, the communism where everyone shares everything, right? And that's pretty much you are given what you need to survive. In theory, right? Well, they have a lot of people, and they need a lot of stuff. So what they're going to start doing is spreading like a disease as much as they can up into the Arctic Circle.
I'm glad you said like a disease, because the original analogy you said earlier when we were talking about this was spreading like a Russian whore. Now that, I'm glad you decided not to say that on the air tonight.
Gives a whole new terminology to comedy pinko. Oh, that is awesome. I lost my train of thought with that. I really did. Oh, you're horrible. No, listen.
I see what you did there. Horrible.
Horrible. And, you know, I don't think Putin is disillusioned with China. I think he knows exactly what China is, but he needs them for right now. So he will play their little reindeer games, whatever he has to do. And listen, you look at how Putin thinks; it's all tactical, right? He was a former KGB agent. He is going to get everything out of them as he possibly can.
Oh yeah.
And then when he has what he needs, the push will return. He will absolutely kick them out. And now the problem with them becoming this alliance, if you will, that they have, is when it falls apart. You have two nuclear nations right next to each other, and it will fall apart.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that's really, really hard to argue anywhere, right? It's going to fall apart. They cannot get along for too long. It's almost like that couple that you know, every couple knows, where you're like, how are they even a couple? Oh, God, they're getting married? Why are they getting married? They're divorced 5 years later. Like, everyone saw it coming, and still nobody's doing anything about it. They need each other right now, so it works. And what does this do for North Korea? Listen, the two friendliest countries to North Korea are Russia and China, oddly with Iran as well. Yeah, that's strange.
Now, there is something else. China is having a big parade in Beijing, where there'll be an estimated 10,000 soldiers and aircraft, weapons that the public previously has not seen, in order to mark Japan's surrender in World War II. In World War II, there were millions of Chinese people killed by the Japanese during that war. Some estimates run around 14 million. Now, invited guests include Vladimir Putin, which, okay, right, the Soviet Union had a part in winning World War II.
Absolutely.
Sudan's President Omar al-Bashir, and members of the Mexican government. I don't remember Mexico doing much in World War II, or Sudan, quite honestly. Listen, hey, we actually helped protect them.
And
why
we're not there?
Why were we not invited?
Why Mexico? Do they have like a CHAFTA?
I don't know. Why Sudan?
But I don't know either.
Right, Russia I can kind of see because they're kind of bedfellows, right? Mexico I can kind of see because they're kind of doing us in via sending their people over here. But Sudan?
I can already see Mexico because let's face it, they're essentially agents for China anyhow. So
right.
They've infiltrated.
I don't know.
I don't know either. This is kind of a bizarre twist in all of this. The alliance with Russia scares me more. It really is frightening to me because they're now going to start pooling resources. And look at, I mean, we've seen their military rhetoric increase huge over the last 3 or 4 years. More than it has since the Cold War. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, during the Cold War, they flew those all the time. Right. During the Cold War. We've since been out of that for, 24, 25 years now? And all of a sudden, it's starting again. Now, it has taken its toll on the Russian aircraft. They've had a couple mishaps and crashes because of poor maintenance. What do they need? They need money, and they need the ability to buy stuff to keep that aircraft coming. Where are they going to get that? China. China has all the money right now, essentially, in the world. They're holding our debt, including the money that they hold. Yeah, and the other thing, too, is we in this country play fair, if you will, when it comes to our finances and our debt. China won't. They're not going to play fair. You look at how they manipulate their dollar. You look at how they manipulate their market. And at some point, they can turn around and say, yeah, you know what, all that market and open trade that we were doing, it's done, and the government's going to control all the money again completely, and there's going to be no outside. It's going to be like it used to be. There's a lot of scary things, and if they do that, what people don't realize, too, is all of their economy that they've built over the last 20 years, in this quote-unquote free capitalism, communism thing that we've been talking about, if the government turns around and decides to take over the finances and all that property again, everything that it's exporting, now that there are Chinese businesses that are doing it, but the government can come in at any moment in that country and say, this is ours now. This is ours now. All those resources now don't belong to the private companies over there. They belong to the government, and it expands their wealth that much more, their technology, all of that stuff.
Something else came out, and it came out last week. There was a report that was done assessing the U.S. risk, a security risk, posed by Russia's violation of the Intermediate Range Ballistic Missile Treaty. And Senator Cruz called for the White House to release that report. And the White House has not done so yet. And you kind of add that now into this whole thing that we've been talking about as well with Russia. And why are they violating the treaty? Mm-hmm. Right? If they're breaching the 1987,
they don't give a damn.
No, but if they're breaching the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, to what degree is that? So Senator Cruz asked, he said, quote, "I request that you lift your embargo on this report immediately," and he wanted a response no later than September 1. Now that date has come and gone, and I haven't heard anything. Have you?
No.
The Washington Free Beacon, the second. Okay. The Washington Free Beacon actually began reporting on this, and they're a good source of this information, starting in the early part of August, like around August 11th or whatnot. And they're reporting that, hey, basically the White House is blocking this report that is outlining possible U.S. responses to the INF treaty violations.
Or lack thereof.
Well, yeah, basically, hey, what this report is said to say, hey, what are our possible responses if this violation is taking
Mm-hmm.
place? And the report, it has not been released. The State Department publicly confirmed the treaty violation last year.
Oh, okay. So we know it's been violated, but we don't know to what extent and what our response is.
Right. Now, I can understand maybe,
maybe it's another reset button.
Hey, here, I can understand us not saying, hey, here's what our specific response is going to be, right? But hey, the Russians did violate this. There are other options we are looking at. Here's a report of how they violated the treaty.
We have a red light camera with Putin's face.
Right. And the serial number of the missile.
Right.
He may or may not be naked, and the missile may or may not be greased up. He may have spurs. This is an unconfirmed report. The tip of the missile may be in his rectum. But anyways,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Still a violation.
It's still a violation.
It's actually a double violation.
He might have been violated a little bit by this. Or a lot bit by this.
What? Well, how do you enter the room? It's just a missile. Ignore it. Let's start this meeting.
How else could I strap on?
It's just dragging behind him with wheels. What? I rode a bear. Why does this shock anyone? I literally take a dump and missiles come out. That's just how awesome I am. What is going on? Why is it that with these rogue nations, and listen, Russia's starting to become a quote-unquote rogue nation again, in my opinion, based on all their rhetoric, based on all their antics. You look at who they're trying to partner with, you look at their attitude towards us and the West in general, they're starting to become a rogue nation yet again. This presidency, this administration, has this bizarre rogue nation outreach program that it loves to do. The fact that they are not enforcing, and like you said, they don't have to tell us exactly what they're going to do, but they should at least be an outline or a rough outline, or say, you know what, there was a direct violation, and we will be, per the treaty, we absolutely will be sanctioning them, issuing embargo, doing things per the treaty.
Hang on a second. So you're saying that the American government has a porn program? Presidential outreach for rogue nations.
Can we write that down?
I already got it right here.
All right, because that's ours.
President Obama's porn program is...
This president's huge in porn, isn't he?
Reaching new heights. President Obama, big in the porn industry.
This guy is all about porn.
This guy's all about presidential...
But am I wrong? I mean...
Hang on a second. I want to clarify something so we don't get sued by the Justice Department. What we mean by that is presidential outreach for rogue nations. What are you going to take, this microphone? Good luck.
Yeah, it's not even that I'm worried about. I don't care about they can sue us all they want. They'll get nothing. The problem is they're clearing out Guantanamo Bay. There's room there right now. War crime. What was you allege the president was into porn. Indefinite. Damn it.
He is into porn.
He is. It's the presidential outreach to Rogue Nations.
Right.
That is awesome. But he is. Listen, it's the ultimate liberal dream, right? You reach out to these industries.
To our porn industries?
You reach out to these countries, and just like the liberals do here with criminals, turn in your guns and we'll give you money. All these different programs that you see right in these inner cities that are just liberal-driven, that don't work, and they bleed the city dry. It's exactly what he's doing with these other nations. It's incredible to me that we're seeing this. We're seeing what happened in Detroit start on the national level.
On Detroit, I do have to say something. I just flew into and out of Detroit over the weekend. And it is a very clean, well-maintained airport. And the TSA in Detroit was awesome.
Really?
Yes, and that's saying something because I hate the TSA.
And you wrote a song about it.
I did.
Want to hit? Here you go.
The TSA in Detroit was awesome. Everybody there made eye contact.
What?
They all
I thought that was against the rules.
I don't know. They all
may have just gotten them all fired.
Listen, they all said hello. They all called me sir.
What?
Yes. Maybe they knew I was a celebrity. Really, Sacco walks in the door, literally sits in the chair, and the door closed segment plays.
Well,
very nicely done, Sacco. Way not to miss a beat. But no, they were very professional. When I walked through the detector thing, instead of just holding up her hand, the lady said, "Please wait here a moment, sir." And thank you very much. And then thanked me, and I collected them up. I was blown away.
She gave you a hug?
So, yeah. No, because she was beastly woman. But
at that point, I would have taken a hug.
Look, so I want to say thank you very much to the TSA in Detroit, Michigan, at the Detroit airport.
Are you writing this down, Sacco?
For their professional behavior. I still think that your job is bullshit, but I want to thank you for conducting yourself in a professional manner. I know you're just doing your job, and I want to thank you for not being such an a-hole like the people were in Sacramento.
Before you left.
Before I left. They were complete... Every time I fly out of Sacramento, they're the biggest bunch of assholes, every single one of them.
Yep.
I have never had a good experience with the TSA at Sacramento.
Amazingly, Oakland, I've had great experiences with.
Yeah.
The Oakland airport. Seriously, as much as I don't like the TSA, I always get treated well there.
Great.
They're very appreciative. So
look, you have a shitty job, that's fine, but you don't have to be an a-hole to everybody, right?
Well, I mean, I am, but...
you are, but that's different. That's your job.
I am and I do.
Listen, Sacco, close the door on this segment. When we come back, Clinton block.
I love how we're throwing blocks.
In a world
on the Sack Kids Radio Show.
By corrupt politicians.
You got a business. You didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying cough for the stupid promo.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Who listens to the Andrea Kaye Show? Let's find out as we eavesdrop on listener Roger Johnson in Encinitas.
You know, if our policy is going to be bring any child who comes across the coordination, we have to take them in.
Okay, so apparently Roger fell asleep in the middle of my brilliant political tirade, and now he plans to sue me because I put him on the air, sleeping. Obviously, he's a liberal.
Snoring, not an option while listening to The Andrea Kaye Show, Tuesday mornings at 11 on Financial News and Talk.
You know I'm right. Y'all know I'm right.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
And we're back. Listen, your headset's not even on. You can't start a segment if your headset's not even on because you're late to the chair getting back from break.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us on the 2nd of September, 2015. We're going to go to Clinton Block because once a week it seems like we just have to update you on the insanity that is Hillary Clinton, not just her pantsuits and cankles, but her legal dabbles. So a couple different things happened. One, I think it was 215 official classified documents showed up on her server somewhere so far. Somewhere in that range, 215, 220, I think. It was ish.
296.
296.
I don't know, something.
One is
ish.
enough. One is enough.
Ish.
But it doesn't matter. More is going to come out. And they're finding out that there are others that were marked as, well, they were originally classified and then changed to probably like highly sensitive or kind of important.
No, that would be like Sacco, right? Highly sensitive.
Kind of important.
It would be Sean.
Right. Classified.
Nope. Nothing. Nothing. Right. Kind of a big deal. That would be Clint.
Kind of a big deal. That's in there as well.
So it was Mark, Clint, Sean, or Sacco. I don't know where they got these names from.
It's the weirdest name.
This is an unconfirmed report. We're trying to shore this up.
How great would that
right
be?
now. Right.
Oh, those a-holes make it everywhere.
Congress is trying to figure out what these names mean. Sacco, Sean, and Clint. They've Googled everything and can't come up with any kind of connection. Anybody having any information, we're offering $1 million reward.
They just keep coming out with some hairy guy in a cage. They can't figure it out. So,
Captain Caveman.
I understand that the case isn't closed yet. I understand the investigation is ongoing.
Well, and now the FBI has their A-team.
Well, I said this a couple weeks ago.
The A-team.
The FBI...
Does that mean Barack... B.A. Baracus? You thought I was going to say Barack.
B.A. Obama.
B.A. Obama. Hey, blatant racist. Did you pick that character because he's black?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to know.
No, it made sense.
Blatant bigot. It made perfect sense.
Joe could be Hannibal. I want him to be the face man, but Hannibal is just way closer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ernest would be the face.
Josh Ernest is face man. Can somebody please do that for me? I want to see a YouTube video in the next couple weeks of the A-Team opener and replace it with Obama, Joe, Ernest, and we got to find one more.
For who? Hannibal face.
Howling Mad Dog.
Oh, Murdoch.
Murdoch. We got to find a Murdoch.
We do have to find a
and
Murdoch.
And now without Holder, I don't know who... Oh, Harry Reid.
Harry Reid is Murdoch.
You can use sound clips. Sackhead challenge to all the listeners out there. Sacco, you can get in on this. You come up with this. Right now, I will offer you...
I'm actually not allowed.
No. Really?
That's against my cages.
Oh. We have something we can find if somebody comes up with this.
What are you talking about?
I have a couple. If somebody makes this video and does the sound with them in their place and back in July,
we do
that we've been told we can use for publicity purposes.
We do.
So
I also don't mind the idea of an autographed Sackhead because we have the
a couple signs. Yeah. So you know what? I don't know. I'm
We'll have to think about it. Get back to the story. We only have 30 minutes on this.
Sorry, that was just the best idea we've ever had.
No, it wasn't, but it was pretty good. One of the best ideas we ever had was presidential outreach for rogue nations. That was one of the best ideas we've had.
So the FBI...
Obama's porn program.
The FBI has to act on this, and I said this a couple weeks ago. If they went after Petraeus and they don't go after Clinton, if that work is not done, if that work is not there, and listen, if they have something to exonerate her,
would it be cankle work instead of leg work?
Cheg work, chunky leg work.
Cheg work, cheesy leg work.
But they're almost... this is so public right now. The right is using this for all of their push right now. They absolutely have to push forward with this. So they are going to put their quote-unquote A team, which, listen, this is right in the FBI's wheelhouse, and here's why. If you want to catch nerd stuff, you assign nerds to it.
Yes,
right?
And that is the FBI.
Which, by the way, I think
that is most of, not all of their agents, but that is most of their agents.
I think they renamed their headquarters Mom's Basement. I'm still checking into that. I think that's coming up officially here soon.
That would make sense.
But they have to scramble all the guys from Mom's Basement,
right?
To do the investigation. And listen, this is going to be scrutinized for years to come. If it's not done by the T, there'll be legal challenges. There's a bunch of things going on here. So. Department of Justice is almost forced into doing it. Now, it's not to say that there's those who don't want to, but listen, Obama and the Clintons don't have any love. And with Joe's name thrown around, it'll be interesting. I think you'll see the president eventually support either Sanders and or Warren, because I think Warren's name's going to show up here eventually. But there's certainly no love for Hillary. So all of those things together, you start to see the hand being forced of the FBI, and you may actually, for once, see something done that needs to be done. She should, if Petraeus is on probation, she should at least be on probation for a felony and be disqualified.
I think it depends what happens, but here's my question, and it's not just my question of the world. How did classified emails go from a secured system onto a non-secure, unclassified server? And according to experts, there is no way, or it is very difficult to move classified documents into a non-classified system.
That's not true, I think.
And this came from Willis Lee, former operations officer for the Army in Europe, and former operations officer for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The classified and unclassified systems are separate, and you cannot email between the two. So, if that's the case,
there was some shenanigans being pulled.
Right, and so this is where the claim comes of, hey, there were staffers that basically stripped that coding, or perhaps printed the document, scanned it, and then sent the email. Either way,
unless it is a non-classified document, it should not be touching that server. Now, I know Hillary's going to blame the person that put it on the server, oh, well, that wasn't me, that was so-and-so, and I didn't even know, and I didn't realize that it was classified document.
Yeah, but we know that's BS because we know there are some certain things just by their very nature that are classified. And as Secretary of State, she knows damn well what information is classified and what information, particularly the more sensitive stuff, right? Some of the stuff she's like, this may be a toss-up, maybe we should find out. But
and you're also seeing her tone on this whole thing change. You're also seeing this tone on this whole thing change dramatically. Right, she was joking about it a few months ago. Now, when it's discussed,
she was joking about it a couple weeks ago. What? Wipe it with what? Like a cloth?
But now you're starting to
wipe
see
it like
her
like a diaper butt.
Take a more serious approach because polls are showing that people want prosecution. People want her held accountable. Her poll numbers are dipping dramatically, and people are offended. She's being called, even by Democratic voters, not trustworthy. That says a lot. It absolutely says a lot.
Does it surprise you?
No. It surprises me how many people are waking up. It does not surprise me how many people don't care.
Look, there are new poll numbers coming out, and I know it's up there, and I'm not trying to showbiz your segment here. But there are new poll numbers coming out that actually put Biden ahead.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, like everything else, Sarko's for Biden. You know what, Sarko?
I may be too. Just to have material.
We have a business to run here. And actually, Dan is in the chat room, made a great comment that I want to discuss too. There's a lot, and he said there's a logical extension to Hillary's claim that she never sent any confidential emails on a private server, which says that she had for her convenience. And there's something that people seem to miss. If she never used electronic communications for classified information, what did she use them for? Did she use them to have a cleared minion with her to communicate anything that was classified? In other words, did she have some setup that was strictly classified, or was there something else designated? So
I just saw this story. I just got it on my phone. It's from Fox News. It says it's published September 3rd, which is weird because that would be 15 minutes past midnight on the East Coast.
Right.
It's still the 2nd here, so when I got this story is from the future. So, what?
The club can't even handle you tonight.
I'm on fire tonight, aren't I?
You are dialed.
Look, so this story, which will break tomorrow, apparently, because it says September 3rd.
So are we breaking it for Fox?
Maybe on the West Coast, because this is from the future, apparently. It's not the 3rd yet where we are. So tomorrow's news today.
Stuck in the TARDIS.
And this, look, I'm just going to read the article here because I'm literally getting this and reviewing it as we talk about this. But it's called Former Clinton Aide Who Helped Set Up Server to Plead Fifth Amendment to Avoid a Subpoena. This is from FoxNews.com. Former aide to Hillary Clinton who helped set up her private email server has told at least 3 congressional committees that he will invoke his Fifth Amendment right to avoid testifying against his former boss.
Whoa!
So again, this story out right now, which is from the 3rd, which is tomorrow, now.
Well, tomorrow soon.
We basically just time warped via the interwebs. Brian Douchebag Pagliano, who worked on Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign before helping install the so-called homebrew server system in her New York home, was asked to testify about the server by the House Select Committee on Benghazi, the State Judiciary Committee, and the Senate Homeland Security Committee. Mr. Pagliano's legal counsel told the committee yesterday that he will plead the Fifth to any and all questions if he were compelled to testify.
Wow. Well,
the letter from Pagliano's attorney, Mark McDougall, cited the ongoing FBI investigation into whether classified national security information was mishandled when it passed through Clinton's server.
There's your patsy. This is your patsy, ladies and gentlemen. This is the patsy. He is going to take a fall for Hillary. Because here's what's going to happen. The FBI investigation is going to show that there was wrongdoing, as we've talked about. Somebody's going to be prosecuted.
Hang on. This from the attorney. While we understand that Mr. Pagliano's response to this subpoena may be controversial in the current political environment, we hope that the members of the Select Committee will respect our client's right to invoke the protections of the Constitution.
I still say you compel him to go, you compel him to swear in, and then have him plead the fifth. America needs to see this guy who set up this server and was very much involved with Clinton in all this classified documents on a private server. They need to see his face, and he needs to be able to say, I will not testify against Hillary. I'm pleading the fifth.
And just to credit properly, Fox News' Ed Henry and Mike Emanuel contributed to the report. The Washington Post originally reported about the subpoena for Mr. Pagliano. So
that's kind of big stuff.
That literally right now popped onto the phone from the future, time warped back, because apparently the space-time continuum understands what a big deal the Sackhead Radio show, and that we needed that information
ASAP.
A few hours ahead of time.
ASAP. Yeah, listen, I think that opens it up to a whole new... And we've seen this with this administration. How many people plead the fifth? It's almost like nobody in this administration...
Name
one! Lois Lerner.
Okay, yeah, good point. I forgot. I got nothing.
And you know, I think you get him to plead the fifth before, and Dan just brought it up, but before October when she's in front of the Benghazi committee.
Mm-hmm.
You get him to do that first, and then you can turn around and say, well, wait a minute. We're going to ask you about emails and information that you had from the night of Benghazi. We were going to ask about your server information to see if any of it crossed your server and made it to your personal phone or not. But the guy who set it up pleaded the fifth, so we have to get that information from you. If you were going to plead the fifth, we will hold you as a hostile witness, and then the investigation will be based on the FBI's investigation and the evidence we have. And then, how can you not go to criminal charges soon after that? It's almost impossible to not go through criminal charges. If this guy's pleading the fifth, it's two things, right?
Right.
Self-incrimination, which is huge. Make the state prove their point. Okay, fine. You're going to make the state prove their case. But he knows, and he will. He'll plead the fifth well before he perjures himself.
But can he plead the fifth? He can plead the fifth and not incriminate himself.
Mm-hmm.
But can he plead the fifth to questions not related
exactly
to him? Can he plead the fifth to questions related to Mrs. Clinton?
No. Right, it's self-incrimination, and then there's
unless the answers are going to incriminate himself, he can still answer the parts of the questions that have to do with Mrs. Clinton.
Yeah, but you know what his lawyers just set up though, and maybe for a reason his lawyers just set up a deal. Hey, in exchange for your testimony, no criminal charges. We'll cut a deal with you, like they should have done with everyone.
Or we'll cut a deal with his testimony to the FBI.
Right. Well, that's what I mean.
Right, but not to the select committees.
No. But we'll work it out. No, well, even so, in exchange for your testimony, we'll make a deal with you. You'll never see a day in prison, which is fine because at the end
you'll never see any charges.
Right.
Because ultimately, who's responsible?
It's Hillary.
Right. The buck stops there, right?
Listen, I know this guy has personal responsibility. If he was involved, he knows what he was doing was wrong, etc. But you see this regularly with criminal prosecution. You want the big fish.
Yes, but hang on a second. Wasn't there information, and didn't we talk about it last week, and I may be wrong, but wasn't there information that the White House had knowledge that she was using a private server?
Well, yeah, but nothing ever goes right to the White House, does it anymore? I mean, really, they're not that responsible for it. This guy, we've talked about it. The president doesn't know anything that's going on. He finds out about it on the news. Hell, he's going to find out Hillary had stuff on her server on the news.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously, the White House...
Probably from this show.
Yeah, he's a listener.
I bet somebody in that White House listens to us.
Oh, I hope so. We know the White House knew about it, just like Benghazi. We know... Listen, a lot of this is very pertinent to Benghazi because a lot of the questions about her server popped up with Benghazi.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost venture a bet to say that she found out about Benghazi on her private server. Because if you look at... there was never...
Because she didn't have any State Department
and there was
equipment, right?
From correct me if I'm wrong, but she didn't answer a phone. There was email sent about the attack. And I would almost bet vital parts of your body that she...
Thank you.
that she would absolutely got it on her personal device, her personal server. Now, Dan has a great suggestion, and we can give this a shot if you want. He thinks we should call the White House right now and find out if they knew anything about Hillary's private server.
Yeah, let's try.
All right, let's hold on. Well, that's weird. I typed in White House phone number on Google, and I get a syntax error. Can't make this stuff up, folks. It's so weird and creepy when this stuff happens. Let's try that again.
Give it another shot.
And my phone blew up. Nothing. I'm showing you. Nothing. I don't even get the Google error message, and all the other web pages are running right now. Oh man, come on, Bing. I think it's 202, 2222 or something like that, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Just call it.
Wow. The request has been terminated. Okay.
Like we said, somebody listens.
I wish. Let me go onto my call list. I wish I had an explanation for all of this. Folks, I can't make this stuff up. I'm really not making this stuff up. This is bizarre stuff. Sacco! We need you! Get me the White House phone number and put a call into him ASAP. Let me know when it's ringing.
It's going to be a while.
What do you...
Wait.
What?
How is it going to be a while?
Google.
You have one job.
House number return. First search result. Okay.
Not the first...
Oh, this is porn.
What? Sacco!
Oh, the president... No. He Googled a presidential outreach for rogue nations. We talked about this. So that makes sense. That actually makes sense.
Google White House phone number and call the first number.
He just said he got porn. Okay. Presidential outreach for rogue nations. Obviously, they got the website up and running already in response to our show.
Put the call in. I'm dead serious. Google it. Google the number and call. All right, here we go. I'll read it to you. You ready? For Skype.
You finally got it working.
Yeah, let's call it. 202?
You're putting a call in?
Yes. I want to know if anyone there knew about Hillary's private server. So we're going to call the White House right now.
This is a request from the chat room, Sacco. You're kind of letting our people down right now.
You can't screw around with this.
Even Sacco can't find it.
We're a media outlet, for God's sakes.
Ish.
There we go.
Thank you for calling the White House comment line.
One ringy
The
dingy.
office is now...
It's the White House comment line.
It's very important to the president, so please call again between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m.
What about those of us that work after hours?
You can't talk to them right now.
Our direct telephone number is...
Get me through the phone tree.
456-1111.
That was Barack.
Will you call a number that works, please? This is important.
Sacco, you have one. You're the tech guy. You can't find a phone number.
You had one job.
You can't make people pick up, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not.
This is your job, Sacco.
All right, we're going to take a break. Sacco's going to find a number that works. We have other things we need to talk about.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians.
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
A team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying Kafka was stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, cause I'm drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific from me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Who listens to the Andrea Kaye Show? Let's find out as we eavesdrop on listener Roger Johnson in Encinitas.
You know, if our policy is going to be bring any child who comes across the border, we have to take them in.
Okay, so apparently Roger fell asleep in the middle of my brilliant political tirade, and now he plans to sue me because I put him on the air, sleeping. Obviously, he's a liberal.
Snoring, not an option while listening to the Andrea Kaye Show, Tuesday mornings at 11 on Financial News and Talk.
You know I'm right. Y'all know I'm right.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for sticking around and making it through the last 30 minutes of our insanity. This is usually the best segment, and by that I mean it's usually the one that we're looking at the clock hoping to go home. Now,
a lot.
We haven't talked about this for a while, but it's really something that is just sad and horrific. It appears that the war on the cops just continues onwards, and it's not well. Last week, Deputy Darren Goforth was killed in his patrol car, fueling his patrol car just outside of Houston, Texas. As he was fueling, a man approached from the rear, fired 15 shots into the deputy, killing him, and was later arrested. A gentleman by the name of, and I use gentleman because I don't want to use the word asshole, identified as, Shannon Miles, is in custody. He made comments about race being related. He made comments about the police killing black people, Black Lives Matter, all that stuff. Just a monster. And now this is amazingly 2 incidents that we've had in just a few weeks.
And the Black Lives Matter group, of course, we're out protesting the next day, talking about pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon.
Yep. Et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, you really think about it, this attack is just as nerve-wracking as the attack that happened on the 2 news reporters 2 weeks ago. But because it wasn't on live TV, it wasn't as shocking to the conscience. Meanwhile, I just want you to think about for a second that a police officer was putting gas in his vehicle and a man walked up and executed him. And where's the outrage? And then just yesterday, Another police officer was shot and killed. And this guy was literally months away from retirement, a 30-year veteran.
Lieutenant.
Yeah, he was a lieutenant. His name was Charles Joseph Galinowitz. 52 years old. He worked for 30 years. Community outreach was his big thing, and he still did it every single week. Inner city kids. He was a staple in the community at Fox Lake in Chicago. Was killed during a traffic stop. Not much information about the suspects is known. And it's still ongoing. Actually, I just said earlier tonight that I got an alert that they may have 2 suspects somewhere in a field outside of there. And those are the 2 that were killed this past, 4 days? 5 days?
Yeah.
And that's not including other ones who were shot and injured, all that, etc. The war on police continues in this country, and it doesn't matter. The funniest part is, as we say all the time, people will not have the literal argument about this, right? When they talk about the police being monsters, they talk about the police being overbearing, when they talk about all these different things and killing black kids and all that, they ignore the facts, they ignore the statistics, they ignore all of that to continue their emotional argument. They don't want to talk about the fact that more black children are killed by other black children in this country than anything else. They don't want to talk about high crime rates. They don't want to talk about all these different things, parents being responsible. They don't even want to talk about holding the people that commit these horrendous acts responsible a lot of times, right? As we saw with the news reporter a couple weeks ago. Well, you know, he obviously had some things going on, but you look at the life he led. He was a black gay man, and, you know, he's seeing all these people get killed who are black, and then the world freaking out about gay marriage. And all these excuses that you saw popping up that were put into place to almost protect a madman from a horrific crime. And he didn't even live. You know, this guy who killed the Texas deputy, he's alive for prosecution and made some comments exactly about what he's about. And there's still people out there on Twitter, on the internet, everything, applauding his actions.
So there was just a Rasmussen poll put out, and it was came out today. And the Rasmussen report found that in a survey of likely voters, 58% think that there is a war on police in America right now.
I think that's it.
And just 27% disagree with that. Another 15% are undecided.
Well, and
almost 60% of America thinks that there is in fact a war on police.
And you look at what's going on in this country, right? And how much of it's underreported, but the reality is what it is. Police officers are being... there was another police officer shot, I think, yesterday or the day before, and he's alive, but he was shot 5 or 6 times. There was a Louisiana state trooper that was killed just a couple days before the Texas deputy. Same thing. He was responding to what he thought was a car crash, went to check on the victim, and took a shotgun blast to the face. All these things are continuing to happen, and a lot of it is set up ambush-style attacks on police.
Yep.
Fortunately, a lot of police officers have lived through these ambush-style attacks, and you don't hear about it because they lived through it. But if you kind of check the bowels of the internet and you really scrape some local area news, etc., it's happening more and more. And I always tell everyone, if you don't follow Lieutenant Randy Sutton on Facebook, and he's the former Las Vegas police lieutenant. I had him on the Edge of Liberty. He's an author, great guy, speaks for the American Council on Public Safety. But he highlights every incident, almost every single day, of attacks on peace officers, whether successful, unsuccessful, etc. And if you pay attention, it's disturbing how often it goes on.
And the other disturbing fact is a large majority think that comments made by elected politicians are fueling this war on police.
Really? What elected politicians?
Look in Sacramento and the mayor and some of the comments that were made after Ferguson.
Right. No, you look all over the place.
All over the place, but that's just one that leapt to my mind right away.
And a lot of it, too, has to do with their actions, right? I mean, you look at what de Blasio has done in New York. And then all of a sudden there were attacks on police officers. There were the 2 police officers that were murdered sitting in their vehicle.
Ambush style.
Ambush style. Shot in the back of the head before they had a chance to respond. 2 detectives, if I remember right, but they were...
No, they were 2 uniformed New York cops.
Yeah, but they were detectives working...
Working separate detail.
But, you know, it's been ongoing, and a lot of it has to do with cities entertaining these events in which you have speakers for the Black Lives Matter, and they have a platform and all this other stuff, calling for police officers to be attacked. And it's horrendous. And nobody in leadership, I'm not saying they can't say it, but nobody in city leadership are standing up to them and saying, no, you're out of your mind. You don't want to kill police officers. They're not the problems in these communities. They're the ones who try to show up and fix the problems in these communities. They're the ones who, in some states, for as little as $28,000 a year, put on a uniform and risk their lives to protect those communities. And all of that is overlooked. All of the injuries, the car accidents, the mental trauma, all those things put together are constantly overlooked for the actions of a couple incidents that looked bad, and the actions of a very, very, very limited few who have done wrong.
Well, look, just in Texas, there was an off-duty police officer that was found dead in his home on Monday, and investigators are calling it very suspicious.
Right.
So you have another officer now off-duty murdered in his home, and who knows what the circumstances are involving that. It's under investigation, but this could certainly be another case of an officer who was targeted.
Well, you look at the recent shooting outside of St. Louis. Kid had a gun, and the news is focusing on the fact that he was shot. The shot severed his spine, and it looked like he was shot in the back. But he had a gun. And one of the jobs that police officers are charged with is stopping somebody who may be going to commit another crime. And in that case, with a weapon in his hand, could be murder somebody innocent. It is their job to stop that person.
And also, for example, in California, it is lawful for law enforcement to use deadly force to apprehend a fleeing felon.
Absolutely.
If that felony was a violent and atrocious felony.
Absolutely.
So if you have a violent and atrocious felon who is running from you, and they're unarmed, police can lawfully use deadly force against that individual.
Well, and one of the arguments that I saw pop out just after the two guys escaped from New York, and the first one was killed, the second one was shot, is, well, the second guy who was shot wasn't even armed. Blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. It doesn't matter. That's the other thing, too, is there are a lot of laws out there. In a lot of states, if you're an escaped prisoner from a state prison, a felon who has escaped, you can be shot on sight. It's still written in the state. California, technically, you can still, they don't do it, but you can still do it. If it's a prisoner who has fled a state prison, you can use deadly force to stop him, especially if he is continuing to flee from you and may get away. So, as much as we love to have the emotional arguments in this country, we don't, but people do, and they use that to fuel and bolster this ridiculous argument that they push with regularly. The reality is they don't talk about the laws that actually are legal for people to do so. And if you don't like those laws, like shooting a fleeing felon or shooting a prisoner who has escaped or whatever, then what you do is you change it legally. You find a way to alter it. You find a way to change it legally. You don't protest. You don't go. If you don't like our criminal justice system in this country, which, by the way, I challenge you to go find a better one. Truly. I challenge you to go find a better. Is it perfect? By no means. There are mistakes.
It never will be.
And it never will be.
There is no perfect criminal justice system.
Because man is involved, right? Man's fallible. We talked about that. People can make mistakes left and right. Some of it's bad decision. I think of the South Carolina shooting that was on video where, the guy said afterwards, I thought it was a taser. In his defense, it could have very well thought he was pulling his taser when he fired the shot. However, the video is bad.
Poor training.
Right. It could go back to as it was with Johan Meserly, the BART police officer that killed, what's his name? I can't even think of the kid's name, but on the tracks. The South Carolina one, though, if you look at it, it is much harder to argue, and I agree, it is much harder to argue that it was a mistake. So you will have those small incidents. And as much as...
And in those cases, like the one where the officer looks like he planted the taser, that guy deserves to be held accountable.
Absolutely does.
Absolutely.
But what people don't realize is when you see one of those incidents with a cop, you don't realize how many doctors are held criminally responsible for their actions that have led to people's deaths on an operating table. And it happens a lot. Deaths by doctor mistakes are pretty significant in this country. Now, is there a risk anytime you go to procedure? Yes. But there's if you
That's why you sign all the forms.
Exactly. But if you dig, there's a lot of criminal neglect.
If you dig, is that like a 70s term, if I dig?
If you dig, baby. If you dig through the news, there is a lot of criminal neglect. You see other people of esteemed jobs, if you will, or jobs where look at the Department of Child Welfare in a lot of states, how jacked up that is. You look at Massachusetts right now, there are kids dying left and right that are in state care. You look at what happened. So there's a lot of mistakes in different systems. However, when you put their numbers and you try to line them up the best you can with peace officer actions in this country, it pales in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Police irresponsibility and or criminal actions are so minimal on the scale. But they're highlighted, well, they should know better. Well, they're also just people at the end of the day. And even if they're committing crimes that they should not be committing, they're no different than other people. They just have a different job.
They should be held to a little bit higher standard.
Well, I agree to a point.
Right.
I think they should be held to a higher standard professionally.
Right.
But have the same legal rights as any other person in this, in due process and all the other stuff.
Absolutely. Now, there's a story I want to get to also, because you jumped that story. But there's this is why I show you the board, Sean. Put your glasses on.
Oh. Yeah, I got on that a little early.
That's okay. There's a group, the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence, that has started a social media campaign, and they're urging members of the public basically to assume that people who are carrying guns lawfully are going to be a potential threat, and to call law enforcement. Now we've all heard the stories about swatting, and so this is a post from, again, the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence. They say, quote, "If you see someone carrying a firearm in public, openly or concealed, and have any doubts as to their intent, call 911 immediately and ask police to come to the scene. Never put your safety or the safety of loved ones at the mercy of weak gun laws that arm individuals in public with little or no criminal or mental health screening."
Interesting.
So we're going to tie up the 911 system, which is for emergencies,
and create situations that were not
and
being
create
created.
situations, right. So you're going to bring law enforcement to a situation with somebody that is carrying a gun lawfully and have them respond. And law enforcement has to respond. It's not the police officer's fault that they get called to this individual who's lawfully carrying. But now they're getting called to a man with a gun call.
Right. And they don't know that going.
And that's possibly the information they're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's somebody with a gun. I think they're dangerous. Or I'm nervous because I'm not around guns a lot.
So we could profile now. Profiling's okay is what we're being told, right? You can profile certain groups now.
Yeah, so you're okay, so I'm going to call 911 for somebody because they have a gun. And I have any doubt, well, it's just because I'm uncomfortable with guns? Or I don't know who this person is.
You know, and I say this all the time. It's the equivalent of,
if somebody's carrying a gun openly on their hip,
odds are they're not
going to be doing bad things. So,
excuse me.
Right?
I bought you a button for a reason.
I got it. I got the button.
Did you not?
I'm hurt. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
But, you know, that's like saying just because one person with a gun has killed somebody that everyone who carries a gun must be profiled. So that's like saying if one person of a certain race has committed a crime, that is okay to profile every person of that race now, by virtue of their logic on this particular incident.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure. What was the group that's supporting this?
This is the douchebag. It's the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence. They don't care about any other type of violence.
Right, it's just
gun violence that they want to
don't care
stop.
if some guy absolutely rapes a young child and brutally beats and hurts her. They don't care about that.
With a knife.
But nothing, even.
No, let's say with a knife.
With a knife, okay.
Right.
With a monkey wrench.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
That's okay, in their opinion. Gun violence, however...
That has to be stopped.
That's the only one that matters. That's the really bad one.
Right. Well,
because there's never been serial rapists.
Listen, we have to target specific things, right, Sean? We have to stop gun violence. Black lives matter, not all lives.
Right.
We have to stop gun violence, not all violence.
What this group is saying, by virtue of is that it's okay to now profile people again. So, should the police use their same logic that they're suggesting?
Basically, for exercising their lawful privilege or right.
Right. So what you're saying, what this group is saying is they want somebody who's within their legal right to be profiled.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially put in a dangerous situation.
Yes. And a dangerous situation to the public. So is there liability if somebody calls on somebody who's lawfully carrying a weapon, and let's say a misunderstanding takes place, shots are fired, and an innocent person gets killed downrange?
Right.
Is there liability on that person?
There should be.
I agree, there should be.
Absolutely should be. You know, there's a difference if there's three guys sitting in a car with ski masks and guns in hand outside of a bank. That might be something that you make a phone call
unless the weather's really cold.
Right. Unless you're in, say, North Dakota in February.
February.
But if you were in downtown Phoenix in July, and there's three guys in overcoats, ski masks with rifles in their hand outside of a bank, you may want to have somebody take a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
But be logical about it, right? Understand your surrounding. If there's a guy walking down the street, as you suggested, who has his gun on his hip, and it's open where everybody can see it, and he has no bones about it.
Right.
Odds are, I'm just saying, if you look at the odds, is that person is legally carrying their weapon. Now, is that every single time? No. But again, our criminal justice system is not perfect.
Right.
And to suggest that you can make it perfect through stricter gun laws is like saying,
ludicrous.
My hair will come back if I comb it.
Which everybody knows it will not.
It's just such a stupid statement.
Sean, put the comb down.
But it is. It's
Sean is trying so hard to get his hair to come back right now.
It worked on my back. It's just such a stupid statement to make.
Hold on, let's reverse. Where's on your back?
Shut up, Sacco.
I'm going to send some photos out. You guys got to see this.
I can't believe you shaved your name into it. It's a very, very...
With your teeth. How do you even do that, Sacco?
It's funny how liberals, yet again, pick and choose. He's like a little beaver. Just
It was amazing.
You could pick and choose when it's okay to violate somebody's rights, as long as you have the emotional charge behind you.
Yes.
Which is funny because it's the same argument.
It's not funny.
No, it is. It's the same argument the left made about McCarthyism back in the day. However, the people McCarthy were at least targeting, there was some sort of evidence on some level.
Well, now they're just outright in public running for office, Sanders.
Some of them were elected.
Right.
There's no problem about it whatsoever. But exactly. But the thought, back in the day, the left was, McCarthyism, and this is just a witch hunt, and blah, 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 blah. And that was like they touted that for years until they drove him out of office. By the way, they found out that a lot of people he was talking about, he was right about, but that's neither here nor there. But now, you want to do that same thing to people who are within their legal right, walking down the street. This group is essentially okay profiling. I just want people to understand that. Get that through your thick skulls.
Yeah.
You've just made it okay.
Yeah. And increasing the risk to the public as a result.
Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm just so frustrated by this right now, it's not even funny. I'm glad I skipped this segment, actually.
Are you really?
Yes. Absolutely glad we skipped to this segment for last.
Open carry is legal in every state except for 5. California,
New York?
No, not Massachusetts. California, Florida, Illinois, New York, South Carolina.
Really?
Yep.
Well, South Carolina, you don't need open carry because I'm pretty sure you can just have a gun.
Right.
I think you're actually given one on your 18th birthday by the state.
Or when you're born, they manufacture one specifically for you. Right.
Which is beautiful. I think that's a lovely...
It's based on your name, right? Like if your name is Clint, you get like a really badass gun because it's a really badass name.
Right.
If your name is Sacco, you get like a little bolt-action single-shot 22.
Right, the Daisy.
Because what the hell is a Sacco? Nobody even knows.
Yeah, I might miss, so, you know.
Right, which is why you get just red rounds at first.
If your name's Sean, you get the 410 Judge, and not because it's got a high caliber, but because it's kind of big and round.
Right, right, and judgmental.
And judgmental.
Right.
And it looks angry. It looks just angry. It just kind of has
It's an angry little, and you have to have a cup of Dunkin' with it.
It's not carved in your back. Oh, wait, never mind.
So, I want to know, let's just say tomorrow that all guns were eliminated from this country. Let's just say somebody had a...
There would be no more murders ever.
Exactly. Somebody had the genie wish, right? Boom, I wish genie, and all the guns disappeared. By the way, they're still going to come back into the country because all the other countries are important.
Right, but nobody could get them.
It would replace drug sales and all that stuff. But that's neither here nor there. Do they really think that Mad Men will stop being Mad Men at that point?
Did you even see the tweet I sent out?
When did you send it?
Yesterday.
No.
How did you not see this?
Well, honestly, because when you tweet once every 3 months,
right,
I don't sit there and look at your Twitter waiting for it.
Yeah, you should.
I saw it.
Thank you, Sacco, for not sending it forward or favoring it either.
I hate you right now.
It basically said we should pass laws and outlaw all guns to win the war on guns and violence because it works so well for drugs.
Oh no, it's been awesome for drugs. In other states, in other state nations that have banned out firearms completely, there's never been another. Australia.
Yeah, there's never been a mass killing.
Right. The Sudan. There's Chad, I think, has a gun ban. There's never any killings there. Pretty much anywhere that Boko Haram operates.
China, there's never been any killings in China.
Nobody's ever died in China. Britain. So it's...
We had to arm Britain in World War II because they didn't have guns.
Right, and now we're... Again, what people don't realize is Britain's police departments are being trained by our police departments to actually carry weapons on the street. Guns again, because it's getting so bad over there, they actually need to go back to carrying. So that worked out well as well. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I say it all the time, more kids in this country die from drownings than they do from guns. Nobody's talking anything about pools whatsoever. More kids, I believe, die in car accidents in this country than guns. We don't do anything. We talk about car safety all the time, but it's never really done anything about. If you really want to save lives, why don't you go down the list of things that kill people the most and go after those first?
Yeah, so there was an American Committee for Defense of British Homes.
Yes.
In 1940, Great Britain was essentially disarmed. Or the guns weren't allowed. They were bad. Right? We're gonna disarm the people. And they did that. And so the American people helped arm them by sending an appeal, basically, to the people, which in the American Rifleman, which was a publication put out by the NRA, basically asked for Americans to send pistols, rifles, revolvers, shotguns, and binoculars because, quote, British civilians faced with the threat of invasion desperately need arms for the defense of their homes. Thousands of guns were collected and sent over via ships so that people could defend themselves in a potential for a potential invasion. And quantities of the .30 caliber M1 rifle were sent across the Atlantic by the American government to help arm British citizens.
The citizens. In contrast to the militia. Just so everyone keeps that clear. Yet again, it wasn't the militia that was being armed. It was the citizens.
So Winston Churchill wrote, in their finest hour, he wrote, quote, when the ships from America approached our shores with their priceless arms, special trains were waiting in all ports to receive their cargo. The Home Guard in every county, in every village, sat up through the night to receive them. By the end of July, we were an armed nation.
Imagine that. I wonder if we could put out like we need something like that here. Because in a lot of places, you're not allowed to defend your home properly. Right? You look at New York City, look at San Francisco. They limit the type of weapon you can keep in your home, etc. And I think those, especially, with New York City, with the crime going back up, Chicago, with the crime going through the roof again, I think there's a lot of people in that city that need probably enhanced rifles to protect themselves.
How did... This was just 60 years ago.
How did we go insane?
Again.
Progressive.
And not just us, but the British, because they were disarmed again.
Yeah, in what, the 70s? Late 70s?
And now we're trying to disarm our citizens. I mean, there's been a big push for a while now. But...
Here's the good part, and this helps me sleep every single night, is the vast majority of Americans will never allow it. It will never be allowed.
But it's gaining steam.
It is.
And really, it's the will of the few that are being imposed upon. Thanks for closing the door, Sacco.
Finally does something right.
When that big board was posted tonight, I said, we're going to have a really good talk. We have some really good topics to talk about.
We do.
And we did. Sean's back was great.
We did.
Sacco's still fixated to my back for some reason.
Right.
We'll work on that. It's a little bit of therapy should help you out there. But, hey, that's it here for the Sackheads Radio Show. We'll be back next Wednesday night, 11 on the East Coast, 8 on the West Coast, right here live from the SHR Media Studio. Who's ringing?
No, that was the alarm basically saying that the show was over. It was the 10 o'clock alarm.
Hey, don't worry, my back's just as bad.
Play the song, would you? We'll see you next week.
Play us out.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America. Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here, too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late-night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio. The best late-night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.